Live from KSAT 12, the Nightbeat starts right now.
Setting danger aside and jumping immediately into action. A West Side man tried to save his elderly neighbor in a fire yesterday on South Smith off Guadalupe Street. Though he wasn't able to pull him out in time, he tells the night team's Garrett Berger he's glad he tried.
I came this way, he came this way.
Daniel Soto was bringing his animals in when another man in their cluster of threeplex and duplexes pointed to the smoke coming out of the window of another unit where their 81-year-old neighbor lived.
And we said, let's touch it. It was hot. And then, I don't know if I did or the gentleman did, we broke the window and that smoke came out. And we said, oh no.
Soto said his elderly neighbor, who has not been officially identified, had health problems. They saw the smoke, someone else grabbed an axe, and they went at the door. Once it was open, they couldn't see through the smoke, but Soto knew the older man slept near the entrance.
The smoke went up and we tried to grab the bed and we grabbed the mattress and the bed and feel for his legs. So I grabbed it and this other gentleman grabbed the other side and we just pulled him out. He landed right there.
Despite the bravery of Soto and his neighbor, the man inside the home had already died when they pulled him out. The San Antonio Fire Department said a mattress had been on fire.
Even though you weren't able to save him, are you glad you tried?
Oh, yes. Anybody would do that.
Soto said the man had been living there when he moved in 3 years ago. Though he'd been coming out less, Soto believes, because of his health.
But I sympathize with the family because, yes, we all knew we have to go, but not this way.
Arson investigators are still trying to determine what caused the fire. Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
Bexar County deputies need your help finding a missing teenager. This on your screen is Jaden Nance. The 16-year-old was last seen Saturday morning on New World Drive near Crestway Road on the northeast side. She was wearing a beige zip-up hoodie and blue jeans, and she does have conditions that require medical attention. If you see her or know where she is, make sure you call the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, that number on your screen, and also post it on our website, ksat.com. A man is in the hospital and a 15-year-old boy is behind bars after police say that teen stabbed him. It happened on Wildwood Drive near Olmos Park late last night. Police say the teen initially ran from officers and was only arrested after they tased him. Meanwhile, that man is still in the hospital in critical condition at last check. That 15-year-old boy being charged with aggravated assault. Now to another case involving a teenager. We now know the name of the 18-year-old who died in a shooting on the southwest side Thursday morning. The Bexar County Medical Examiner says he is Xavier Skelton. First responders found him with several gunshot wounds just after 3 a.m. Thursday morning on Carranza Street near Quintana Road. There's still no word, though, on a suspect in this shooting. To politics now. Vice President Kamala Harris is the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Now she just needs a running mate. ABC News reports she's getting closer to announcing that decision and interviewed several potential candidates today. That includes Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. All three were included in initial conversations when President Joe Biden announced he'd be stepping aside and VP Harris announced she'd be seeking the nominee. It is expected Harris will announce that running mate sometime this week. Closer to home, KSAT's doing something different this election season. We're going to communities all over South Texas and hearing from you, voters on both sides, about what issues matter to you most. During our first episode in Uvalde, we found some locals with a refreshing outlook, and you'd like to see it. Scan this QR code and watch, and stay on the lookout for our next edition of Your Voice South Texas. Putting in the hours so the rest of us can enjoy one of San Antonio's most popular parks. 70 volunteers spent their morning grabbing trash all over Woodlawn Park. Our Devin Karp was there with them, trash bag in hand, to learn why they care so much and to see how much of a difference they're making.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
There's a lot of different ways to spend your Sunday. And for these volunteers, one of the best ways to do it is by combining worship with picking up trash.
I'm glad we're out doing it together. 4 eyes is better than 2, so as we spot, then we grab with our picker and then we put it in like this.
Says Wow is a volunteer organization within the World Mission Society Church of God, whose members believe that doing the small stuff can add up.
We believe that through cleaning up the community, we can make it a safer environment, a more more pleasant environment for everyone together.
70 people came together to scout all over Woodlawn Lake Park, looking for trash wherever they can find it.
These volunteers want to pick up a lot of trash, filling up as many of these bags as they can, hoping to get 3,000 pounds of it.
This group came ready to work, and we're getting at that bulk, we're getting at all the tedious little pieces, everything.
Charles Blank is the director of River Aid San Antonio, a nonprofit that works with volunteers and contracts to clean up parks all around the area for a good reason.
Is it open? I'm sorry.
It's open.
Not only is this one of our flagship parks, but this is one of the only natural areas that we have that our Egyptian geese can enjoy and other native animals.
He says taking care of what's in your backyard can have a big impact on everything around you.
This feeds into Alizon Creek. This affects downstream communities, not just Woodlawn Lake.
We just work in unity all together. If anyone needs help with bigger items, then we just come to help each other. We have radio systems so we can stay in communication so that everything is covered.
By the bridge, we have a hazardous material that needs to be picked up.
Ultimately, these organizations want to encourage others to clean when they can and always have spots open for more people to volunteer.
That feeling when you all walk away and there's a massive pile of trash staring back at you, and Woodlawn Lake's looking a lot better for not only your crew, but everybody who's here today.
Oh, maybe should we go look over there? Oh, yeah.
I'm Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
Yeah, and sometimes we can see that trash really start to build up after it rains. It hasn't been for everybody today, but if you've been here in San Antonio and surrounding areas tonight and you've looked off to the west, you likely have seen some lightning out there from some weakening but still strong storms pushing through parts of Medina County. I do want to get you to the radar really quickly and point your attention to the top right of the screen. Over the past 30 minutes, these thunderstorms were capable of producing over 250 lightning strikes. Now that number is down under 100. That's one of those signs that we use to see if a cluster of storms is weakening. Still some heavy rain that's been dumping 1 to 3 inches in localized spots near and just south of Hondo and even into southeastern Uvalde County as well. Hondo also measured in a wind gust over 50 miles per hour from some gusty winds associated with these thunderstorms. Again, the next hour or two, we could start to see these really fizzle out. And after that, rain chances are pretty much out of the forecast looking ahead to the upcoming week. So I'm glad that some folks did get some rain today because high pressure is going to move back into the state of Texas. Dry and hot. Rain chances out of the forecast by tomorrow. Daily high temperatures climbing to the triple-digit mark, or at least very close to it. So a typical August pattern is back. We're going to break those details down and also get you the latest on what was just upgraded to Hurricane Debbie. Not going to impact us here in Texas, but we'll show you where it's expected to make landfall by this time tomorrow. Courtney.
Mia. Well, as we parents know, school is just around the corner and there's security upgrades at Northeast ISD. It comes in the form of an emergency response team. The night team's John Paul Barajas sat down with the district's police chief to learn how this group plays into NEISD's security plans.
I have a group of officers that will be trained, equipped, and have the mindset that if something does happen, they're going to respond.
Having learned from the past, Northeast ISD is preparing for the future with its new emergency response team. The 8-person crew will face the most serious situations if they arise.
If you go back over the history of school shooters, kind of the common element that you got out of each one is you had responding agencies that didn't engage immediately.
District Police Chief Wally McCampbell says this team was hand-selected to ensure they're ready and prepared for the worst, using an interview process that asks pointed questions.
Why do they want to be part of this team? If it's money, if it's ego, if it's thinking that all they're going to do is sit around and wait for that call to come in.
What was some of their responses?
The passion to protect the kids.
Those chosen had to pass several tests in leadership, fitness, and firearms.
There was a firearms qualification, which the TICO mandate is a 70 or better to be able to be considered passing. And so what we did is we raised that to a 90% in order to be part of this team.
They'll have to maintain that training twice a year. The 4 teams of 2 will be regular patrol officers on a day-to-day basis unless there's an emergency, which is why they'll share a truck.
So this is a lockbox. What all would they store in here?
They could, like their long rifles, extra ammunition, any gear that they would need on a day-to-day basis.
The chief says the emergency response team will be ready to go come any ISD's first day of school, August 12th. John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
And parents, getting your students ready for the school year is a lot easier said than done. If you need help with supplies, we know where you can turn. Just scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen. We have an entire web article dedicated to the back to school events and giveaways happening right now until that first day of school. Calling all cat lovers. I'm listening. San Antonio Pets Alive needs your help. They've run out of room for kittens in their shelter and are in dire need of foster parents. There's only one requirement to be a foster cat parent: having a loving home. SA Pets Alive will provide all the necessary resources you need, including food, formula for those little ones, and even heating pads. If you're interested, you can visit San Antonio Pets Alive's website for more information. We also have a story about it on our website as well. As families set aside money for back to school, KSAT Explains is taking a look at money within schools. How are public schools paid for?
It's really a equal share on behalf of the state of Texas as well as the local taxation or property taxpayers.
But property taxes paid within a school district don't always stay in that district. That's thanks to a lawsuit filed by Edgewood ISD. The Texas school funding is being revolutionized. KSAT Explains is coming up at 10:30. Millions of Americans along the southeastern coast of the U.S. are bracing for impact of now Hurricane Debbie. Coming up, how those coastal communities are preparing and what experts are expecting from the storm. We have a live update for you just into the Weather Center and the newsroom. Millions of people in Florida, we know, are along the eastern seaboard bracing for Debbie. That was just upgraded to a hurricane just within the last few minutes. The storm is moving north through the Gulf, churning up the surf of Florida's west coast, and the impact expected to last well into this week. ABC's Allison Cossack reports there are already thousands of flight cancellations and delays.
Millions in Florida bracing for impact as Tropical Storm Debbie rolls towards the state.
And now we've got 4 to 6 inches coming, and I'm just not sure where it's going to go.
The system is expected to strike the Big Bend region, where the Panhandle meets the peninsula, that area just emerging from recent storms.
You may get hit with an awful lot of water, a lot of rain. There may be immediate impacts that you see, but you could also see flooding that happens days afterwards. Do not go into flood waters. There could be dangerous debris, there could be downed power lines, and please do not drive your vehicles through flooded streets.
Homeowners on alert for potential life-threatening storm surge. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis placing most of the state's cities and counties under emergency orders. Evacuations in parts of the Gulf Coast, DeSantis adding it's all hands are on deck.
If you have been ordered to evacuate by your local officials, please heed that call.
President Biden has approved a disaster declaration. Georgia and South Carolina also declaring a state of emergency.
If you're in a vulnerable housing situation, including those in low-lying areas or at-risk floodplains, you should consider moving. Get out of those areas as quickly as possible. Over the next coming days, we've got shelters that are going to be set up all over the state. I would suggest getting to those before it's too late. Don't wait till you see water rising.
Allison Cossack, ABC News, New York.
All right, Mia, we said that was just upgraded a few minutes ago. Tell us a little detail about how that comes in and what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just got the brand new update in as of the top of the 10 p.m. hour as Debbie continues to work through the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Debbie is the fourth named system so far for the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. Take a look at this chart. That runs officially from June 1st through November 30th with what we know is the climatological peak of hurricane season on September 10th. So you can see where we are in that white line approaching the climatological peak. And yes, Debbie has strengthened now into a Category 1 hurricane. You can see rain bands already working across the Big Bend area. They've been just battering the Florida peninsula today. Winds now up to 75 miles per hour, moving north at 12 miles per hour, pressure down to 985 millibars. Flood alerts already in place near Tampa and just to the northwest of Orlando. Even some severe weather certainly possible. A tornado watch continues continues overnight for the northern half of the Sunshine State. Hurricane warnings in place where you see this deeper red color near Tallahassee and just to the west of Gainesville. Everywhere where you see blue, that's a tropical storm warning that is still in effect. This is the latest forecast track for where Debbie is expected to go. Again, this is not going to impact the state of Texas, but it is expected to continue that northward movement, making landfall likely as a Category 1 hurricane near or just east of Tallahassee tomorrow morning or by lunchtime. Then it's expected to weaken as it moves through southern Georgia and eventually out into the western Atlantic before potentially moving closer to the parts of the Carolinas into early next week. By the time all is said and done for northern Florida, 6 to 12 inches of rain, localized pockets of 18 inches certainly possible. So we'll continue to get you some more updates on that over the next several days as Debbie makes landfall and continues working northeast, especially if you have any friends or family out in that direction. Back here at home, a lot of this green that you're seeing near San Antonio and pointing far off to the east, that's just radar noise. What we're still looking at, though, a few storms west of the I-35 corridor, specifically along and south of Highway 90, southern Medina County and southern Uvalde County as well. Again, these storms continue to weaken as we were talking about at the top of the newscast. Notice your lightning strike count now down into the upper 30s. So another indication that these storms are losing their steam. Still some heavy rain south of D'Hanis as well as Hondo. There also has been quite a bit of rain that's fallen near Concan. Great news for the Frio River and near Brackettville out there in eastern Kenny County. I think we have a couple more hours left, but overall, these storms will continue to fizzle out over the next few hours and into the overnight. But one of the big catalysts behind why we even saw some of this activity today, a stalled boundary over central Texas. That's going to continue to work away from San Antonio over the next couple of days as high pressure starts to work its way closer to the Lone Star State. With high pressure systems, we see sinking air. Unfortunately, that suppresses rain chances, and it also means that those temperatures are once again expected to crank up. So the heat is going to be the name of the game for us here locally over the next several days. Take a look at your KSAT 12-hour forecast for tomorrow. A muggy start, upper 70s, around 77 degrees at 7 a.m. Plenty of sunshine throughout the day. 91 expected at noon. And then as we head into the later portions of our Monday, high temperatures topping off right around 98 degrees by 4 to 5 p.m. When you factor in the humidity, feels like temperatures upwards of 102 to even 105 degrees in a few locations certainly do look to be possible. And here's a look at those forecast highs across the region tomorrow. 98 out east in Gonzales, 96 in Comfort, 97 in Tarpley, 100 degrees expected in Uvalde as well as Sabinal. You can see a lot of sunshine expected over the next several days. Keep the water bottle handy. Be careful out there in this August heat. And also the sunscreen with the UV index being pretty elevated as well. It's possible into next week we see a few isolated chances for rain return. By the way, Courtney, coming up in the next half hour, we're going to talk about rainfall totals from what we saw today and also get you a look at some pretty awesome KSAT Connect photos.
We always love when people send those.
We sure do.
All right. Thanks, Mia. We'll be right back with the preview of Instant Replay. The Houston Texans and Chicago Bears kicked off preseason Thursday night, and Dallas Cowboys are getting ready to face the LA Rams a week from today. For a preview of what's on Instant Replay, we've got Larry Ramirez. I can't even believe I'm saying those words. Preseason
slowly building up to the regular season, a little over 4 weeks away. How awesome is that? The Dallas Cowboys are off today, but there's still plenty to talk about coming up tonight on Instant Replay.
I think it hit me during OTAs when they said we get paid on workout days. I'm getting paid to work out now. It's not bad.
Yeah, making it to the pro level definitely has its perks. One rookie at Cowboys training camp is turning heads and has Dak's attention for sure. Find out how his singing got called out during practice.
I'm interested to see, with 16 games going, I'm interested to see just after we get more looks at it, more data, and see, what is to come with the new kickoff.
Houston Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans with mixed emotions when it comes to the new NFL kickoff rules. He needs more data, that's for sure. Now, the Texans dropped the weather-shortened Hall of Fame game to the Bears, and they didn't look too shabby with their big names sitting out. And we'll also have Andre Johnson joining the Hall of Fame Saturday afternoon.
My watch kept telling me you're in atrial fibrillation. They just kept telling me over and over again. And I said, there's no way, I feel fine.
Spurs great and the maker of the Memorial Day miracle, Sean Elliott, recently had a health scare. His Apple Watch alerted him, and he was able to seek medical attention to shock his heart back into rhythm. RJ Marquez sat down with Sean, and we've got part of that interview tonight. Now, are you concerned about Wemby getting injured during the Olympics? That's our poll question tonight. And we're asking this because he's dealing with the injury, something that he did not explain. You can vote now at ksat.com/sports/poll. That and more coming up on IR.
It's always scary when, he's our focus.
It is,
I
indeed.
understand the stress.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Larry. All right. Coming up, so many South Texas families are budgeting for the cost of going back to school. But have you ever wondered who pays for what happens at schools? How public schools are funded is the topic in KSAT Explains after the break. A lot of families are budgeting for back to school right now, figuring out how many school supplies, clothes, and backpacks will cost. But what about school itself? How are public schools paid for? In this KSAT Explains, we're breaking down how and where schools get their money and how a lawsuit in one San Antonio school district revolutionized that funding.
This lesson is a little bit math.
It is complicated. It's a very complicated system.
And a little bit history.
I was there. I can tell you exactly what happened.
We'll start here. How Texas public schools are funded.
It's really a equal share on behalf of the state of Texas as well as the local taxation of property taxpayers.
Public schools get money from the state and from local property owners through property tax. Each has its own formula. In state funding, there's something called a basic allotment.
And that is, in essence, the funding that is guaranteed per pupil to every district, across every campus in the state.
That dollar amount is $6,160 per student. The basic allotment does not change year after year, even if costs do. The last time the amount was adjusted by the state was in 2019. The allotment is not given to schools based on how many students are enrolled, but rather how many students show up.
It's called ADA, average daily attendance. It's basically the number of students on average that come to school each and every day. That's how school districts receive their funding.
In addition to the basic allotment, there are weights. Those weights mean the dollar amount goes up in some cases.
Some students that have special needs cost more to educate than others. For example, there will be a career technical education weight that is a little bit more than, say, your general education weight because of the materials, the cost of equipment. It's just a more expensive program to run.
So now we have basic allotment plus weights plus property taxes. But property taxes paid within a school district don't always stay within that district.
You've probably heard a lot about the Edgewood cases.
Here comes the history.
I was there for the walkout in '68. I started teaching when there was no monies in Edgewood.
Diana Herrera was a teacher in Edgewood ISD for 30 years. She was a junior at Edgewood High School in 1968 when roughly 450 students walked out of class, demanding more equitable school funding. The fight began, Diana says, when Edgewood students who wanted to go to college realized they didn't meet the requirements.
So as they start looking into it, they find that many of our teachers were not degreed. Many of them were not certified.
School facilities were also lacking.
No hot water, no fans, the library was minimally used, poor science labs, and on and on and on and on.
An Edgewood parent, Demetrio Rodriguez, seen here with his sons, filed a lawsuit. He's standing in front of Edgewood Elementary, where the top floor was closed because rain and bats would find their way in. That lawsuit led to the creation of MALDEF.
The Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and it was started here in San Antonio in 1968.
The same year as the student walkout.
And then at that point in '68, they were going to cross U.S. Highway 90. So by that time, the SAPD is around, but to our great satisfaction, SAPD were Edgewood grads. Many of the police officers were Edgewood grads. So what they did is they held back traffic on Highway 90 and let these kids walk by and cross over. As soon as they cross over, well, the Edgewood main office is there.
There was a federal court lawsuit back in 1968 through 1973, which really was Edgewood compared to Alamo Heights, and then expanded to look at the whole state, poor districts versus rich districts.
Ultimately, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld Texas school funding. Then came 1984 and a different lawsuit. Despite the passage of roughly 2 decades, the suit dealt with a lot of the same issues.
Their schools, the physical buildings were in worse shape than the other schools, that they didn't have enough teachers, they had too many teachers on emergency certificates, and to make it even worse, these poor districts generally had more students who cost more to educate. I worked on it from 1984 to 2002, went to the Texas Supreme Court 4 times.
The lawsuit was Edgewood ISD versus Kirby, the state's education commissioner at the time. In 1989, the Texas Supreme Court ruled in favor of Edgewood.
So the Texas Supreme Court found that this system was not efficient. It wasted a lot of state money. It was not equalized, didn't give equal rights to students in poor districts and rich districts, and therefore it violated the Texas Constitution.
But the court didn't tell lawmakers how to fix those violations. Some changes were made,
which did put some more money into the system, but didn't really equalize.
So MALDEF filed another lawsuit.
We call it Edgewood 2 sometimes.
There was even a 3 and a 4 until 1995.
And basically in 95 was the first time the legislature came up with a system that the Texas Supreme Court approved of.
And that's recapture.
And that was recapture, yes.
The process of recapture is still used by the state of Texas today, though now it's called excess revenue. It puts schools into 2 categories, those that must spread the wealth and those that need some of that money. Schools that have what the state deems an excess must send the money back to the state, and then Texas redistributes it. It's a system that's been dubbed Robin Hood by some. To calculate how much money a district must send back, the state compares a district's property tax revenue to what's called entitlement. Remember that previous math we did, basic allotment plus weights? That's entitlement. It's the dollar amount the state says a school district is entitled to based on its student population and needs. But property owners have to pay their share first. The difference between entitlement and property tax revenue is how much money the state gives a district. But if property tax revenue is more than the entitlement amount, that's an excess, and that difference goes back to the state. A difference is what Diana noticed once recapture was put in place, thanks to the Edgewood lawsuit.
I saw the first degree PE coach, the first degree librarian. We had never had a degree librarian. The first degree reading teacher, the first degree dyslexic teacher. We had never had a dyslexia teacher ever.
So what's recapture like on the flip side? Well, let's look at Alamo Heights ISD, for example, a local district that Edgewood parents began looking at all those decades ago. In 2022, Alamo Heights had a recapture amount of nearly $34 million. That was nearly 47% of the district's property tax revenue. More than 30 years after the landmark outcome of the Edgewood ISD lawsuit, questions about the future of Texas public school funds are still swirling. School voucher plans, unfunded safety mandates from the state, property tax compression, and more.
Why are we not adequately funding and especially supporting our classroom teachers in particular with appropriate funding when we know that the funding is there?
They continue to demand and mandate, and yet they continue to cut.
To check out this or any other KSAT Explained story, just scan the QR code. Explains is all about taking one topic and diving deep. You can watch our stories anytime on KSAT.com, YouTube, or the KSAT Plus app. If you're hot, they're hot. The summer heat has really kicked into gear lately. How to keep your furry friends safe and comfortable after the break. A lot of dog lovers take their pups wherever they go, but in summertime, you have to be careful. That same heat can be dangerous for you and your family, can also have a big impact on your furry friends. KSAT producer Haley Powers is explaining why the excessive heat we see in South Texas can be hurtful and even deadly to dogs.
Dogs love being outside. They get to run around and enjoy the fresh air, but that can quickly turn to panic if you aren't paying attention, since your pup can quickly overheat.
But if they can't get enough heat expelled to cool themselves down, then you have a problem and you put them into a really sensitive position to overheat very quickly.
The American Kennel Club says some signs your dog may be overheating include gasping for air, saliva thickening, being unable to stand, and in more serious situations, they may be vomiting, have diarrhea, or even have a seizure. If that happens, you need to act fast.
Really quick, get it to water. Start just kind of soaking the dog, put it down to rest, get a fan on it.
Debbie Davis, the Director of Operations for God's Dogs Rescue in Vaughn Army, says this is all preventable.
I think there needs to be more awareness of what's really going on when it comes to the surface, the ground that we're walking on with the temperatures, and about the fact that dogs don't cool down the way you and I do.
Our KSAT Weather Authority team has a breakdown of the surface of the ground temperatures. As you can see, when the air temperature is 95 degrees, the asphalt is 140, the sidewalk 125, and take a look at the grass. It's above 100 degrees, and the shaded grass is only at 90. And look to the right of the air temperature. You can see that your dog's paws will burn in 1 minute at 140 degrees.
I also suggest you take your shoe off and test that pavement and make sure that pavement is, if it's comfortable for you to walk on, then your dog is probably okay. If it's not comfortable for you, odds are it's not comfortable for your dog.
Haley Powers, KSAT 12 News.
Another thing to remember that may seem obvious, but we always need to repeat it: don't leave your dog in a hot car. The National Humane Education Society says you could face a fine of up to $500 since it is a Class C misdemeanor to leave your pet unattended in a car. I like that. Take your shoes off and test it with your own feet.
Yeah, exactly. Just make sure that it's as safe as possible for those furry friends to take a walk too.
Especially right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We saw plenty of heat out there today, and that is going to be a very common theme through the upcoming work week. Take a look at the almanac data for this Sunday. 78 was our official low temperature, but we were able to climb to 99 here in San Antonio, 2 degrees above the average of 97. Thankfully, nowhere near the record of 105 that was set back just last year. Take a look at highs across the area. 98 out east in Gonzales. It was 101 in Hondo. 100 in Uvalde. 103 was the high temperature over there in Eagle Pass in Maverick County. Since then, temperatures, of course, has fallen now that the sun's gone down. 86 here in the Alamo City. Even some rain-cooled air west of I-35 where we have seen some of that rain. Hold on a little bit longer tonight. 72 right now in Uvalde. So some of nature's AC as we get ready to head to bed. Yes, the heat is going to be the big story into the upcoming work week. We're going to have another look at that extended forecast coming up.
We were just talking about the dogs, but of course we need to really be careful about sunscreen and water. It sounds so obvious every time we say it, but we really do need to be careful.
Well, considering we saw such a good break in the heat, like the last couple of weeks in late July, now it's kind of our bodies starting to get acclimated again to where we typically are for this time of year. So yes, the heat is going to be the big story this week, as we've been talking about. Thankfully, some of us, well, not all of us, did see some rain today. And as promised, I want to get you a look at some of those KSAT Connect photos. Take a look at that cumulonimbus cloud out in the distance from Helotes. I love the caption there. Flying saucer, question mark? No, just a really nice anvil cloud from some of those thunderstorms that were reaching so high up into the sky. How about this thunderstorm out there on the horizon of the field, currently north of Hondo? Rudy Solis sent that in earlier today. Woodlawn Lake, of course, we were talking about that earlier in the newscast as well. Nice cumulonimbus thunderstorm cloud off there in the distance. And I love this picture from Kennedy. Saw some mammatus clouds, those kind of cotton ball looking ones there. My favorite type of cloud. We see those when we have turbulent weather. So thank you, Sandy B, for sending that into KSAT Connect as well. Let's take a look at some of the rainfall totals. We started off this morning here in San Antonio with a few spotty storms here and there. Near Hollywood Park, about 0.3 of an inch. Just at the south of Bulverde in far northern Bexar County, about 1/2 inch was recorded. China Grove, 0.2 inches right there along the western Bexar, eastern Medina County line, about 0.8 inches. So that's great to see. Also had a nice cluster of storms push across the coastal plains earlier this afternoon. About 1 inch being estimated by authority radar near Cuero, just 500ths near Yorktown, south of Gonzales, a nice little pocket of 2 inches estimated there. By the way, anywhere you are seeing this yellow, that's a minimum of 2 inches of rain. North of Bandera, about 2 inches. Just to the south of Lakey, over 3 inches. And with some of those storms that we've been tracking throughout the newscast, over 4 inches just to the south of Hondo there. So could lead to a few issues out there on area roadways over the next couple of hours or so. But again, those thunderstorms really weakening even more so. In fact, the ones that were just south of Hondo and D'Hanis, those are pretty much fizzled out as of right now. Still some heavy rain though south of Uvalde. So we'll be keeping tabs on that over the next few hours. But I think by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, we're not really expecting any issues out there for the morning commute on area roadways. Just a whole lot of sunshine throughout your Monday. So this week, high pressure moving back in. That's going to be the main dominating feature of our weather pattern here at home. So rain chances come down. We still will monitor for a few isolated rain chances that could work back in by next weekend. And of course, those temperatures, highs near 100 degrees expected each and every afternoon. And in that same sense, I want to talk about how many triple-digit days we've seen so far this year. Today, we were just shy of it officially here in San Antonio, 99 our high temperature. We've seen 12 triple-digit days for 2024. This time last year, we were already at 39. And of course, 2023 would go on to see 75 triple-digit days, breaking the record for the most number of 100-degree-plus afternoons that we would see in a given calendar year. We will be pretty close tomorrow and into Tuesday, and then I think we will hit that century mark by Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday. By the way, that is a few degrees above the average for this time of year of 97. It's not just us dealing with this heat. Take a look at high temperatures expected tomorrow across the lower 48, 100 in Dallas, 112 in Las Vegas. That's where we'll still find some excessive heat warnings in place right now, and some heat advisories also off to our east across portions of Mississippi and Louisiana. Until then, 87 here in San Antonio this hour, feeling like 90, 77 degrees by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, 88 by 11, 97 at 3, and then that high temperature in the upper 90s right near 100 in many locations. Copy and paste those forecast numbers, if not climbing by a degree or two each afternoon all the way into next weekend. And we'll see if we can't find some isolated rain, maybe by this time next week, Courtney.
Ooh, it's the humidity that gets us.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Mia. We'll see you on the other side of the break for a preview of Instant Replay. Cowboys offensive lineman Terrence Steele is proud to represent Steele High School, and Houston Texans great Andre Johnson is now a Hall of Famer. For more of what's on Instant Replay, here's Larry Ramirez. So amazing to see.
Absolutely. So the third overall pick in the 2003 NFL Draft, NFL Hall of Famer. Wow. No surprise, really. He's the first member of the Houston Texans to get his call to the Hall. Coming up tonight on Instant Replay.
And over this. I'm happy as hell again to be your first Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Former Houston Texans head coach Gary Kubiak helped Andre Johnson uncover his Hall of Fame bronze bust that will forever be on display at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Johnson was soft-spoken during his great NFL career, but he had a lot to say during his nearly 15-minute Hall of Fame acceptance speech.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, you were a monster out there compared to some of these kids. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, I was a big boy.
Before leaving Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California, we sat down with Dallas Cowboys right tackle Terrence Steele at a Steele High School and showed him his old huddle video. Talk about a blast from the past that made Steele smile and reminisce. We've got it for you. The Bernie Little League baseball team is one win away from Williamsport. The 2024 KSAT Pigskin Classic is quickly approaching. Plus, we've got Major League Baseball, the Olympics, and much, much more right after the Night Beat.
Leave out the Olympics. It's our life right now.
Right, it is.
Thanks, Larry. We'll see you in a bit. We'll be right back.